Good day to you, partner. I'm Dee, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. TopWoog has done some amazing work on this fight when it comes to necromancers, and it honestly, possibly, his information will help every single class. Now, the stomp on the boss at the beginning led to all of his blundergores, the guys from Act 2, which TopWoog was just, bitching about in Necro Chat today. They all died, but if you look at his health, they already got quite a big chunk. So I would say it's probably always worth it to stomp him, even though they're probably all going to die once those cold spires go off. Now, if anyone's wondering, I am not going to go over the gear. I already went over the gear. It's in the Dclone video. Okay, this will be cast 4 times throughout the fight, so that's why you need 4 antidotes. Now, you don't really need antidotes for anything else because of the rest of the poison damage in the fight is quite non-consequential, at least as a damage over time. Technically, there is one other poison ability, but it's a nuke. The one that looks like Poison Nova, which he casts right after Poison Creeper, which is procced by his remaining health, will basically always kill you. There's really no way to have enough full jubes to just face tank it without antidotes. Maybe some melee class can do that. I wouldn't be surprised. There's actually a huge benefit to being a melee class, especially when it comes to Mendel. Now, I'm sure the Frozen Spires are annoying, but his other big poison ability, that one right there, the nuke, it actually spawns at a radius quite far away from Mendel. I don't know if that's intentional. As you saw, TopWoog was actually quite far away and wasn't even hit by it. Not the Poison Nova, that one right there. That's the nuke. So you can be quite far away from the boss while he was just too far away. And I wonder if that's intentional to help make the fight easier for melee than range, because in general, ranged have it much better in this game. As you saw, TopWoog was in a perfect space for that. You just stand within a radius of like 6 yards around the boss and you won't be affected. It's also pretty nice for your revives because poison and any summon just don't go together. It's one of the worst things. So as you can see, I think it takes 2 Desecrates to kill the Sanguines. At least maybe 2 good Desecrates. Desecrate's a really annoying spell. Even single target, you really don't like to use it because, as you can see, sometimes he has issues with the casting delay to when the poison damage actually starts and it has this awkward radius thing. It's really quite a poorly programmed skill. I think this game took it from another mod, but I wish it was instant, and I don't even think it would make the ability that much better. I mean, maybe it would make Budget Desecrate a little more functional for like Chaos Sanctuary. I doubt it would cause issues, but I don't know. People are always unhappy. So there's the nuke. Here's the Poison Creepers. That last one was the Poison Nova. And that's the one that you need those antidotes for. The last information for the fight is the reason we can do the Sanguines so consistently is because of the switch to Venom Ward. Venom Ward is basically just better for ads in Dclone and Rathma, mainly because when you pierce an enemy's resistance below 0, and I believe these Sanguines have 30 resistances, which is just kind of the default res of enemies now for bosses, like Dclone I believe is 30 for most res. When you drop an enemy's poison resistance below 0, then it actually increases not only the damage by a small amount because you're piercing below 0, but it increases the duration. Now it's not like a huge amount, but just the fact that you get more duration means your functional uptime is higher. Casting Desecrate is awkward, sometimes you might miss, so every time you get a Desecrate off and it affects an enemy, and it's lasting a bit longer, is a huge quality of life deal. So it actually affects the fight in so many ways. It's quite silly. As you saw, he just casted 2 Poison Burst, didn't take any damage. Now Mendel runs off. You really only need 4 antidotes. He's going to drop these because the next fight he doesn't even need them. He's going to swap off the Raven and put on a Dwarf Star. And that's just because Dwarf Star is like the best overall ring in the game when it comes to defense. Yes, Nature's Peace has all that max res. You know, Cold Absorb on some, blobly boo blob. But just that life is, yeah, it's basically the life. And the Fire Absorb, sure. Especially for a Necromancer, it's really good to have that. Okay. So Rathma is actually the easier fight now in Woog's opinion. The way the fight works for Necromancers is you can basically avoid any meaningful chance to die. The only way Rathma can kill a Necromancer, I'm not sure if this is true for Melee, so don't quote me on this, is if you get, right there, you get caught in a Bone Spirit. Ooh, oh, he almost died right there. You get caught in a Bone Spirit, and you just get unlucky. Now you might say, well, Keith, you already said that. Well, we have some more information on how the fight works. So the blue patches, that is fire damage. The bone attacks are magic. The Void Knights cast, I forget if it's fire or magic. I forget. I'm sorry. The important point is the real reason we're going to die in this fight is the other ad he spawns, the Conjured Souls. The Conjured Souls cast a Fissure ability, and we believe those clips of people randomly dying in this fight was because of some unluckiness with Conjured Souls and Fissure. So that's a Conjured Soul, and if you see those blue flames on the ground, it basically looks like a blue fissure. Sometimes it can be hard to notice because of, you know, all the blue effects and Desecrate and just how this game functions. That ability is a high damaging druid spell, and it's been transitioned to still deal fire damage. But the thing about it is that those fissures basically cast a heavy amount of damage in a radius of 3. So the fissure on the ground is a really small looking effect. But a radius of 3 is basically about the size of maybe 2 characters standing right next to each other, you know, in a circle. So it's actually quite a bigger radius than what the skill looks like. Now, Fissure isn't a dot. So although it can look like you're taking damage over time, it should only hit you once and then stop damaging you. Now, Rin looked at the patch, the MQL file, and he's pretty good at reading it. And there is some possibility that each fissure can hit you twice, because there are 2 separate damage pull things. I can't explain it well. He could explain it better. But basically, there is a chance each fissure could hit you twice. He's not sure about that. The reason that might be possible is you can just watch during this fight when Woog takes a lot more damage than you think he should have, and it's possible a fissure hit him twice. The other side of it is just the way this game works. There could be multiple fissures being cast in the same spot, and that's why he took a massive chunk of damage. Or, you know, even there was a bone ability that just we couldn't see on the screen, and he died. The reason why Woog thinks this fight is so easy is although the damage is hard to avoid and there's a lot of it that, you know, you can't resist and the fissures do so much damage, basically the only way you can die against Rathma is just by not being at 100% and getting unlucky. So if you always use a pot, which he hasn't been like too judicious about, but as you've noticed, he's been pretty liberal with his pot usage. If you just use a pot, anytime you take damage, you should never die in this fight. By the way, that was desync right there. Like, I know desync, and like there was nothing on the screen, and Woog is taking damage, and it's so frustrating. But it's just something you got to get used to. Okay, so what Woog is trying to do here is he's trying to split the bosses. Now, by the way, as you saw, the ads took the poison burst, and then Woog didn't take any damage. So there is a possibility, just like with Dclone, that blood golems could be more functional in the sense you can cast them whenever and wherever you want. I really want Landis 3 to do this fight more. Wow, he almost died right there. Okay, so he is going to try and split the bosses. Let's see how well he does. Basically, what he says is there's a chance you can easily split the boss by teleporting to that corner, and then the fight becomes a joke. The reason he focuses, excuse me, Mendon first is... Oh, he's actually doing both at the same time. Okay, interesting. I'm actually going to watch this a bit too. So generally he focuses Mendon first, and the reason he focuses Mendon first is because Mendon has a higher chance of killing you, which might not seem right, but just based the way that he has a nuke and a high damage dot, things could go wrong, right? Now, Rathma is actually trickier in this section of the fight in the sense that the ads she summons are dangerous, while Mendon doesn't summon ads. So focusing him really doesn't put you in any poor position. But if you focus Rathma, you know, and there's Conjured Souls, there's Void Knights, there's Mendon, and there's Rathma on the screen, the chance you randomly die goes up like 500%, right? So here he is. There's going to be a Poison Nova casted in just a moment. There it is. Immediate antidote usage. That was actually really quick. So that's basically just something you got to be ready for now. It's basically just like Dclone. You know, 4 times in a fight, he's going to cast that, so get ready to pop it. Every other poison ability, do not waste an antidote for. I definitely watched a video saying you should have 8. People saying you should have more. If you have good poison res and 125 poison reduction, you should have no issue with any poison damage in this fight, other than this Poison Nova. And it's going to be the last one he casts, and he's going to die soon. I really wanted to see him try to split the bosses the way he mentioned. I don't know if that's just a way to quickly desync them together. Oof, he almost dies right there. I wonder what that was. Maybe he was caught on a fissure or something. So ads are being spawned, and as you can see, it is a little bit trickier. There's one other thing I want to mention. In this section of the fight, you actually have the ability to completely avoid some of Rathma's attacks, but I don't want to mention it in this very chaotic section because I don't even think he's trying. And it's also something you can actually do during Mendon as a character with a easily usable teleport. Now, of course, Necromancers do take some damage from their teleport, so that's always a tricky thing. But considering we have a fairly reliable low cooldown teleport, you can actually teleport across abilities. Since we kind of learned it was pretty easy to deal with the poison in Mendon, it's not that useful. It's always something you could do. Mendon's poison burst doesn't reach the edge. I just realized I mixed up the abilities. So Rathma at this point is completely pointless. I'm sorry I confused that so poorly. So in this section of the fight, you can avoid the burst. But since you can be close to him, it doesn't quite matter. But it's still useful because this section of the fight's a little more chaotic. So that could actually be functional. Rathma's about to die. I'm not just impressed with Woog's ability to do this fight. I'm impressed with his ability to deal with the information given and present it in a way that I can understand and that also Woog can possibly help with. If we find out how Fischl works, I'll let you know. Besides that, Skelly King out. GG.
Come play with us. Come play with us, Daddy.